party, folks.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine podcast, radio broadcast, and internet extravaganza, now that we're actually on the internet, known all over the globe as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. We are so glad to have you here for show number 237 as we talk about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We had a couple of false starts there because we had some internet audio issues that appear to have been corrected by our erstwhile producer, Adam. So thank you, Adam.
It's nice thank you for OnStark for letting us know that we were having those
issues.
Yeah,
you know what?
We would have gleefully been going on sounding terrible.
Oh yeah, we could have gone. We could have done a whole show sounding like that would have been. I don't know. For me, it might have been an improvement, but
I noticed that you're not holding a microphone today, there, Cruz. I feel like
as I think I pointed out a few shows ago, I have moved into the high-tech world of Ian Barry, and I received actually as a Christmas gift from my wife a wonderful wireless microphone with the little stuff, so that when we're on these on-location shows like we are today at Stogies, that I can be just as cool as you with the wireless.
Aren't those things called Mr. Microphone?
I think they are. Yeah. In fact, what a lot of people don't know is I have actually been driving down the streets in my neighborhood going, "Hey, good looking. We'll be back to pick you up later." Remember that? That was the Mr. Microphone.
Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. They even brought coffee.
Is it you?
So, so I'm not a coffee guy. So if you want it, go ahead. But anyway, I'm now showing what a wireless mic novice I am, because I brought the transmitter part of it and not the receiver part today.
No, I got to ask you a little bit about your wireless mic since you got it. Have you used it for recording and stuff like that?
Not really, because I have a really nice mic set up when I do recording at home. So I've been just using that. So really, I got it only for the show.
This is a little wireless system Sennheiser makes, and they make it for guitars as well. I end up using mine at home all the time. It's just one less cable I got to deal with.
Well, I have the lavalier mic on, which I believe is yours, Adam.
More free than
this is Adam's lavalier mic, which I think he uses to go out on bicycle treks and stuff and film and do crazy nature things.
I'm super jealous on that now too.
Yeah,
so you've turned the tables on me.
Yes,
so it doesn't pick up the wind?
Yeah. How is it picking up the wind?
I haven't tried it on. I haven't gone on a bike or anything.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. It'll be fun to do. So anyway, I have both hands free, which is wonderful. It's a great thing, especially since, and this always happens when we go on location if we're smoking cigars, as we are today. And by the way, this is a wonderful Oliva Series V that I'm smoking, and I have to ask you if we're saying that wrong later, but we'll get to that. But it's nice to be able to smoke it and not have to juggle the microphone, which I've always had to do before.
If you're like me, you always set the cigar down with one hand, then you end up swapping hands, and you're like, now my cigar's in the wrong place. So I actually preempted that by putting the ashtray directly in front of me so I can reach it either hand today.
Well, I'll let you work on that. In the meantime, we're going to welcome our special guest, Trenton Smith from Oliva Cigars. Trenton, welcome.
Thank you.
It is nice to have you back on the show. It has been too long.
It really has.
It really has.
This is your third time on the show now?
Yes.
Yeah.
The third official time.
I think the first time we were talking about this, the first time we were out at Man Cave, which doesn't exist anymore. It's now, that location is now Maduro's.
Yes.
But that was a fun show. And then we've had you once before. I think we might have been at Casa de Monte Cristo maybe that time?
No.
Is that where
we were at Lemon.
No? Oh, we were at BB Lemon. That's right. Well, that was good and that was fun. So
we had some good cocktails that day too.
Today we are in the Stogies VIP lounge, which is really one of the nicest VIP lounges in town. It's really, really beautiful. We were talking on the aborted first try of the show about how amazing their humidor is and how much fun it is to just walk through it. And you were talking about your humidor sort of normal way you roll through.
My humidor walkthrough. I usually, like, when I walk into a humidor, especially if I haven't been in there in a while, I do a whole walkthrough mental inventory, and then I go through the second time around and decide what I'm going to pick up. That's kind of how I go. Just so you know, in the background here, these lockers, the face of each one of these lockers is covered in this beautiful bird's eye maple. And you can't see it from back there on the camera, but up close they're absolutely stunning.
Bruce just said in the messaging, there you go, that's better. So I guess our mics may be working.
That adapter did it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
well,
learning.
You know what? We learn as we go. It's only show number 237, So
Still room for
you
improvement.
We'll
can't
figure it out.
expect us to have figured it out by now. So welcome to the show. We are halfway to 300.
We're halfway to 300.
Our special guest is Trenton from Oliva, and we want to let you know that we are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. It is great T-shirts for cigar lovers, available on the web. They start at under $20, and there's new designs available for summer and more coming, I understand. So excited about that. So on today's show, we'll be trying some delicious Oliva cigars, of course, as well as some interesting beverages from Three Sons Brewing Company out of Dania Beach, Florida. We'll be trying their Clockwit Orange.
Clockwit?
Clockwit Orange.
Nice.
It is a Witbier. And it's got a great, we'll bring the can out here in a minute, but it's got a great Clockwork Orange style design to the can. From Austin, Texas, and Fourth Tap Brewing Company. We'll be trying their Stay Gold Hoppy Pale Ale, which is co-branded with one of the most exciting new bands. They're new to me. I think they've been around for a little while. Out of Austin, the Black Pumas. And you may remember I talked about this after I saw them on the Grammys. I didn't know anything about them, and they blew me away. They were so good.
Are they the ones that did there was a TV show they did the theme song for. Was that them, or
I don't
think it's
think
someone
so.
else?
These guys are fairly new. It's got this like older white guy on guitar that looks like he could be a member of the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Nice.
And then it's got this young, short dreadlock black guy on lead vocals that is just sensational. And I mean, it's like Gary Clark Jr. meets the Fab T-Birds.
I remember I was hanging out with some friends in Austin right pre-COVID, and they live right by Zilker Park, so right by their house they have free concerts, and we ended up seeing them there. That's where.
How were they live?
They were fantastic.
Yeah, they blew
Absolutely
me away
fantastic.
when I saw them on the Grammys.
Yeah, we were just up on the
a bunch of live
up on the
performance video and
grass,
stuff
yeah.
since then, and they've just great. But I have not actually seen them live. Anyway, they did this beer with Fourth Tap out of Austin called Black Pumas Stay Gold. It's a hoppy pale ale.
Stay Gold. Is that like Stay Gold Pony Boy?
I think so, yeah. I think so. And then finally, from Revision Brewing Company in Sparks, Nevada, we'll be tasting their Finite Madness. It's an Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels, so I know you're not going to be interested
That's
in that.
the worst. Yeah, no way.
Yeah, so, and then Ian brought along a very interesting-looking bottle of whiskey today, too.
Yeah, we're going on the budget side, actually, today. We're having the Old Granddad High Rye Mash Bill Bonded Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey.
Well, that's the thing about, like, Old Granddad is not the world's most expensive
It is not.
whiskey.
It is not. And I haven't had this expression, so this will be a new one for us to try. I've had the 114 and the regular Old Granddad. The 114 is fantastic. The regular Old Granddad is also quite good and not very expensive at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like 15 or something a bottle. Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in that
it's
neighborhood?
like ridiculous. Yeah.
This is a 1 liter bottle, and I think I paid $22 for it. Or
Well,
something.
it just goes to show you, and we'll see how it tastes, but it just goes to show you that you don't have to always spend a lot of money to get a good whiskey.
So when I went to Angel's Envy last year, one of the things that the guy there talked about was the bond, bottled and bond thing.
Right.
And he goes, and he made a pretty profound statement, actually, and I'm going to quote him. He said, the bottle and bond was made to create quality control, basically. Mm-hmm. So that you weren't getting some bad whiskey, because that was rampant at the time. However, he goes, even if you look on the lower shelves and you find something that's bottled and bond, it's probably at least good.
Really, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I'll be excited to try. I love that you went to Angel's Envy.
I bet you do. I picked you up a present there.
Oh, that rye is so delicious, and you even had my name inscribed on the bottle.
Right.
It was
That's
very,
right.
it's very, yeah. That's one of those, like, it's like I do when I get a bottle of Reserva de la Familia from Cuervo. I meet it out in small quantities. That's for special occasions.
And if you get a second bottle, you got to pour it
toast.
into the first one, because
Yeah.
it's got your name actually.
Yeah.
So
So
stupid question. Somebody else may have this, but what does bottled and bond mean?
Oh, so bottled and bond is what they started doing because way back, 1800s and whatnot. I can't remember the year that bottled and bond happened. But the Bottled and Bond Act was enacted because there's so many what do you call it?
Bootleggers.
Bootleg, not real. Like they just put it in bottles and stuff, so you can. So what they did is they came up with a set of rules that you had to your whiskey had to be made. I believe one season, one distillery, and then it was put into a bonded warehouse for the term of its.
And the bonding was actually overseen by the government, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and the bonding was overseen by the government. That way, if it said it was bonded, the government has made sure that, and that whole act has made sure that what you're getting is a whiskey that has met at least these.
And so bottled and bond has kind of come back of late as a sort of a way to let the buyer know that, hey, this is something special.
It's
This
at
is,
least it's at least this quality, and I don't think that a lot of companies would bother going through the process if they've got bad liquid,
right. 'Cause
Just to put bottled and bond on there, I feel like that if your liquid is not good enough to sell, then you wouldn't go through the process.
Well, it's a government process, so there's going to be money involved in it. The government's going to get their cut.
Of
Yeah,
course, that's
So
always going to be
Does
the
it also
case.
have to do with the proof?
No,
Okay.
It could be, it could be a different proof. It'd be.
I mean it has to be at least. I think. I think it's the barrels are bonded, so it's not. This is
think-
bonded from the barrel, which is bonded. It's not bonded in the bottle itself.
But I think
so then
most-
they can change the proof afterwards. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
Somebody
I think
needs
most
to tell us.
bottled and somebody will know. I think most bottled and bond that I have tried have been a little higher proof.
I was thinking the same
You know,
thing.
so
I
so
think
maybe
there's a
that's
1792 that's bottled in
Yeah,
bond.
yeah, yeah.
yeah. There's a
There
number
is.
of
You can get
different
Old Forester bottled and bond is fantastic, and again, it's not
It's
super
not
pricey
expensive.
either.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
it's a good thing. Well, we're looking forward to trying the Old Granddad, which has got to be. If you think about what's the least sexy name of any spirit on the planet, that would probably be it. Old,
Get
not just
yourself
Granddad, Old Granddad.
Get yourself some Old Granddad.
You know, I'm a granddad, but I don't think of myself as an old granddad. You know what I mean? I think of myself as a young granddad.
State of mind.
You're more
Yeah,
of a
that's right.
Gramps, right?
Yeah, pops actually.
Pops. Okay, there you go.
Well, we have some interesting things to talk about on the show, as well as Oliva Cigars today. There's a new article out that I want to share with you. 12 new vodkas that should be on your radar right now.
Right now.
Yeah, so we have that. Also, the Texas Whiskey Festival has released their announcement of the top Texas whiskeys of 2021. And I've had this article for a few weeks, but we've had other whiskey people on it, and I didn't want to do the list if they weren't on the list, which doesn't mean their whiskey isn't good. It's just I thought that might be like kind of an uncool thing to do. It kind of like me doing a list of the best cigars, and somehow Oliva's not on there.
Well, that's not possible.
Well, okay, there you go.
Not happening.
Trenton, it's so much fun to have you on the show, and obviously Ian and I are both just huge fans of Oliva Cigars. As Ian, I think, was saying before the show, they're in sort of our regular purchase.
So you started off
rotation.
with the Serie V
Serie Maduro.
Maduro,
Yeah, which I love.
Which yes,
Yeah.
that's an absolute.
And you
good
started
thing.
with the Connecticut,
I started
right?
off with Connecticut, and I mentioned a couple times. I was like, man, this makes me want some coffee with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Trenton went and asked them if she made coffee. And
Thank
this
you,
coffee,
Jenny.
by the way, yes, thank you, Jenny. This coffee, by the way, right now is at the exact temperature, which it will stay for about 33 more seconds, where,
Right.
where it's perfect amount of heat
Yeah.
and drinkable.
Right.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely
So
fantastic.
coffee goes well with Connecticut's in general, right?
That goes well with cigars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I've ever had a cigar and coffee pairing that didn't go well together unless you're trying to have like a flavored cigar of some sort.
And it's not like beer. For example, we
But-
talked about the fact that some beer goes great with cigars, and then others, like I love IPAs, but I don't often drink them when I'm
Yeah.
having a cigar because more often than not they
There's
fight each other.
definitely a
little bit.
clash factor there.
They fight each other. a
Yeah,
little bit.
the big hoppy flavor doesn't always jive well with cigars. But this Connecticut just made me think, man. When I went to that's an incomplete thought. I'll get back to it. When I went to Ybor City, we got there kind of in the morning, And it was interesting to wander around Ybor City, which is all just this cigar culture thing. I'm sure you've been there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is what they do. Everyone is sitting outside with a cup of coffee and cigars. Everyone. Like, it's
In
all
front of
up
all
and
the little
down,
shops and, yeah.
everywhere.
I
If you
love
have a
that.
cigar shop next to a coffee shop, both places are making money in Ybor City.
I love that.
And it was everywhere. It was absolutely wonderful.
You know-
But I frequently, you know, when I do my cigar reviews, I'll have a cup of coffee there with it, unless it's a really light cigar, and then I need to be able to taste the cigar.
Oh, and it's a Cuban tradition.
Yeah.
Cuban coffee, really strong with some lot of sugar, sweetness to it. But that would go perfect with that Connecticut because that's a very mild, has some sweetness to it that would just complement the
Yeah.
coffee.
So speaking of that and of Ybor City, the J.C. Newman Cigar Company, which is located there, has, based on the fact that it is allowable under certain conditions to import Cuban coffee into the U.S., it has to be from private growers, not from any government government-grown coffee, but it is allowed apparently under certain conditions. J.C. Newman is petitioning the United States government to allow them to do the same thing with Cuban tobacco, where they would be able to import
As a gross product.
Yeah, as a gross product, right, and of course only from private independent farmers in Cuba, rather than rather than from any government thing. So we'll see how all of that goes. But if that petition is accepted, it could really change things for cigar companies. I mean, I don't know how many would jump at the chance. I've been enjoying at this point in my cigar smoking adventures, I almost enjoy Nicaraguan cigars more than I enjoy Cuban cigars.
Well, and so much of it came from Cuba. All the
Right.
heritage, the tradition, the knowledge of how to grow the tobacco, how to cultivate it, how to age it, how to make the cigars. I mean, most of the cigar companies are Cuban-based at some point.
Right, that's where the origin
Yep.
was of
Well,
the
I
company.
think the cigar, we can draw a parallel to beer in America too. The cigar companies, like for years it was Cuban cigars are the best. Cuban cigars are the best. There's no way that anything else could be as good. And beer was the same way. It
was
had to
German
be
beer.
German beer. You had
Yeah.
to go to
German or
Germany
Bavarian.
to get good beer. And then we figured out how to make beer.
Right,
And boy,
now,
did we.
Now the Europeans are making American-style craft
Yes,
beer.
absolutely. And it's interesting because I think the cigar industry has done the same thing where you pick up a cigar like this, and this is fantastic. And let's not forget, Cubans make great cigars, but they make bad ones too.
Yes, they
Just
do.
like every
I've had
other-
some really bad Cuban cigars.
Just like every other industry,
Well, one of the things that I find interesting about Oliva as a company is that you guys buck this sort of common trend that I see with so many cigar companies that are always releasing something new every few months. I love Rocky Patel. Rocky puts out something new every 3 months. Something comes out that he puts out. Oliva, though, you guys seem really focused on a certain handful of the things that you do, and just continuing to, make those at a quality level. Is that a sort of a conscious decision? And how does that help you guys in terms of marketing, or would it be more helpful sometimes? I mean, you're a sales guy. Would it be more helpful if you were walking in going, "Hey, we have something brand new"?
No, this is not by. There was no accident to this. 2014, we got #1 in Cigar Aficionado with this cigar that I'm smoking right now.
And it continues to rank well
Correct.
every time
Correct.
they try it. Yeah.
But we got so many orders for it. We were making more cigars than we ever have before, every year since 2014. So we made a very precise effort to keep up on production. Now, there's been times where Milanios have been on back order, Series Vs have been on back order, but even through COVID, we've really been able to maintain quality and maintain getting the cigars out. Now, yeah, we've had some back orders. The everything is just kind of screwed up with the supply chain, but I mean, we really haven't had many back orders on Milanio or V. So,
Right.
so with that said, we've got the PCA coming up, our trade show, and my boss just sent an email saying, "Hey, get ready. We're going to have a couple new products." And I'm like, I just sent back a question mark. He never responded.
Well,
Tell me what.
Well, I'd be thrilled, just because it's always exciting when you have something new coming out, So
And even I don't know.
You guys have your core line is the Series V, and you have the Maduro and.
Well, it started with the Series O, Series
O,
G,
and the G,
Series
yeah.
V, and then the brother of the Series V is the Series V Melanio, and then Connecticut Reserve,
Would you
which you're
consider the
smoking.
Melanio as the flagship?
Series V, pretty much.
Series V.
Yeah.
You also have, I think, one of the best lower price cigar entry lines, and that's
Gilberto,
the
Gilberto.
Those cigars are so good. Sometimes I marvel at how you can get a cigar that good and,
For
and,
$6,
and sell
$7.
it for exactly.
Yep.
Because when Ian and I were we've talked about this before. When we were in Honduras, we were invited by the Aladino people to come down and spend some time down there, and got to tour the factory and all of that. Going through the entire process from planting to tending the fields to harvesting.
How many
to
people do you
curing.
think touch that cigar?
Oh my God, I don't even.
Well, there's
know.
that.
It's amazing.
But I'm blown away that
Yeah.
they could sell a cigar
There's that
for $6 or $7.
That 300 hands cigar that was made was that was by I can't remember who it was by, but they called it 300 hands, and it was meant to commemorate that's how many people
Had
are
touched that
involved
cigar.
to make
I
a
believe it.
cigar.
I believe it. It's amazing then that you can buy one for under $20.
I know it's
It
crazy.
is. Isn't
Absolutely
it?
crazy.
It really is. All right, we're going to take a break from our first segment, and we will be right back. In our next segment, we'll begin some tasting, and we'll be tasting the Clockwit Orange
Clockwit
Witbier
Easy for you to
from
say.
Three Sons Brewing Company. I'll try to say it several times real fast. And talking more about Oliva Cigars, and so you don't have any teaser info yet on what these new
Not a
items
thing.
might be.
He just
Not a
has
thing.
the question marks hanging out there in the
I'm
air.
still waiting on for
I
a
have to
response.
admit, I'm a little excited. So if a response comes in during the show, hopefully you'll be willing to share it with us. So, all right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back, smoking and toasting. Thank you for joining us for show number 237, live from Stogies with Oliva Cigars. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the radio program and podcast that's all about craft beer, fine spirits,
All about
and
it.
hand-rolled cigars. And boy, are we having this cigar is just so good. You get such depth of flavors, such a wonderful kind of complex mixing of flavors in this. I get a little chocolate and earth from this, and it's just
That's a good.
I'm reminded of how much
And
I
they
love
make
this
they
cigar.
make that one in a Lancero, which is particularly good.
Yeah.
Not the Maduro.
Not
the
the
Maduro.
Maduro.
The V.
Now, this
V.
one, this is the Melanio. That's the Figurado.
That was the one that got #1 in 2014.
And that's the one you started off smoking
Yep.
today.
Yeah.
So we all started smoking off different ones
cigars.
today.
Yeah, that's very interesting. In 2019, in January, Three Sons Brewing in Dania Beach, Florida, received an award as the best new brewer in the world. Corey Artemis is Three Sons owner and head brewer. He says he assumed it was a mistake, but it was true apparently. 2 months before they opened up their tap room to the public, the craft beer website ratebeer.com had in fact ranked the brewery #1 actually in 2018. It came out in January of 2019. It kind of left him scratching his head, he says, but it surprised none of their nearly 15,000 Instagram followers who all kind of chimed in as they did to congratulate the brewery. And so I am betting that is him in the little and you may want to walk over and show that to the camera, Ian. That is the
Will, let me lighten up this can by pouring some more.
Okay, that's a good idea, because I don't want you to carry too heavy of a can over to the
Yeah, the can the work the artwork on this is fantastic. Let's put this up here.
So it's a Witbier, and it is
I could barely see it with the lighting in here. But yeah, it's got the classic kind of Clockwork Orange kind of thing. And it's got, I guess, the brewer just peeking out from in there. It's pretty cool.
So a Witbier is a wheat-based beer.
Yes.
And this one apparently has got a number of different things it was brewed with, including a bit of orange peel.
Wit beers a lot of times have they have a kind of a lighter. A lot of times some of the fruitier flavors. You get some banana and some other things going on with them.
Yep.
But adding orange peel to this, it's also a pale color, sometimes a whitish kind of pale color.
Almost looks
instead
like
of
a white ale.
straw
Yeah.
kind of pale color. It gets a little white. Like there's some classic ones out there like Celis White and a few others that are absolutely, absolutely monsters in the industry.
Now, I will say there's not much on the nose to this one.
Oh, this smells good, though, if you ask me. Like, I smell the orange peel right off the bat.
Well, maybe you're getting more
Smells
than I
less
am.
beer than orange to me.
I don't get much orange at all.
Interesting.
But I do get the sweet on the palate.
Yeah, the orange that I get is more on the finish.
Yep.
Yeah.
It kind of the first blush of this is just kind of a sort of a tasty, refreshing wheat beer vibe, and then but it's on that finish that you start to pick up a little of that orange peel vibe. And
There's a little of the orange peel, a little lemony kind of thing going on
Yes,
at the very end.
definitely some lemony flavors to it, which is not unusual for a wheat beer, correct?
No, not at all. I'm also wondering, because I've been drinking coffee and smoking a cigar, wondering how much of that has been influencing my palate. So I'm going to rinse my palate with a little.
One of the things, if you remember, our tequila expert Liliana mentioned when we were doing our tequila añejo blind taste test that she said, "Oh well, when you do the tastings, because she's all about doing things like right and official, right?" She said you're not supposed to have smoked a cigar or anything like that before, and because that can influence.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, that can influence the
Like with
taste,
soap
or
and stuff.
wear like cologne or perfume. But I explained to Liliana that it's okay for me because I'm very seldom going to be having a tequila when I have not been smoking a cigar. So I'd rather know how it works in that configuration than just otherwise.
The more I drink this beer, the more I like it. I'm starting to pick up even more of that orange flavor in the background. The beginning of this is a little sweeter than I originally thought. I think the coffee I was drinking, the bitterness of the coffee was covering it. But my palate's getting a little more adjusted. This is really good.
That is good.
It is very tasty.
What's the alcohol content?
It's actually not that big. I think it's 4.7 is what it said.
I think that's right.
4.9.
4.9.
Percent, yeah. Belgian style white ale with orange peel. It is absolutely delicious. There's not a bunch of information on here. It just has that. And that cool artwork.
That's very interesting.
Did you get this locally by any chance?
I did not. I
Okay,
got that
yeah.
one on the internet. So, but you can buy a lot of Florida beers here because I've noticed that a lot of places are now stocking
Cigar City.
Cigar City, which is one of my favorite.
I love
Florida
their
breweries.
Maduro beer.
Oh,
Have you had
man.
that?
The Maduro
not.
is fantastic.
It's so good.
I love their double IPA, which is called Florida Man.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite of their offerings.
Well, they have that brown ale, which is what they call their Maduro, and it is fantastic.
Almost all of their beers are named in some kind of a cigar reference. The pale ale is a Gayabara, which is the cool tobacco roller shirt, the one with the extra lacing on the front.
Made out of linen. That
Yeah.
As soon as you put them on, they wrinkle.
Yes, exactly. But at least they breathe, and that's probably important in the cigar rolling cigar rolling place. Where are your cigars actually rolled and manufactured?
Nicaragua.
So everything comes out of Nicaragua.
Everything is made in
regardless
Nicaragua.
of what tobacco may be used in the mix.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
So, and do you guys source tobacco? Do you source more tobacco than you grow yourself? I'm not familiar with whether you guys farm your own or not.
We farm. Yeah, we're vertically integrated, so we do everything from the planting of the seed to the selling of the cigars. And yes, we do sell a lot of tobacco.
From seed to smoke.
From seed to smoke.
There you go.
I don't know what the proportions are, but yeah, we sell a lot of our tobacco. And in the cigar industry, a lot of companies go back and forth behind the scenes, trading tobacco, selling tobacco, and doing collaborative efforts.
And with you guys having I don't want to say limited, but with you keeping your core line fairly small, do you find that there are things, I know you mentioned you are getting the word that there may be some new things coming out for the trade show. Do you find if you were to be asked what style or kind of cigar you'd like to see added to the line, what would you think?
You know, that's a good question because we have everything right now from very mild, which the Connecticut Reserve, to more spicy, full flavor, One of our spiciest cigars is the KNF that a lot of people don't know about. It's kind of a brand that we haven't put much emphasis behind, but we've also got very full flavor cigars in the Master Blend and the Series V.
As someone who really likes, bigger cigars and fuller flavor, I have to compliment you because a lot of times when I will go back and smoke a lighter cigar, a Connecticut wrapper cigar, I find I just don't feel like I'm getting a lot of flavor from it. And that is not the case with your Connecticut wrapper
Now, by
cigars.
bigger, are you saying meaning ring gauge or the flavor?
No, I mean more the flavor
okay.
and the intensity,
Yep.
the power of the
So
cigar.
I'm smoking that Connecticut right now. Look at the smoke that comes out.
Oh, I
of
know.
this.
It's great. It's just, and the room note from that is so
Tons of
nice.
flavor.
Well, that's the thing, and that's what I like so much about Oliva's lighter cigars, is that they are not light in flavor. They're light in punch because that's what they're designed. They're designed to be a lighter cigar.
Strength-wise, but not flavor-wise.
Right.
So
Exactly.
a few that fall in that category, of course, the Connecticut Reserve, the Gilberto Blanc is going to fall in that also, and then the Nub Connecticut, big ring gauge, very mild, very complex though.
Yeah, and so talk to me a little bit about Nub. You guys were the first really to venture into this short, fat cigar.
Let me preface this by saying the Nub Maduro Tubo is always, I have a few of them in my humidor because that is so awesome to just grab, toss in your pocket. If you get a chance to smoke it, great. It's a small cigar and it smokes forever.
It does.
I love that about it.
And I will say,
Like it's a small, short cigar. It's usually a 64 ring gauge?
There's a 464 torpedo, there's a 466 torpedo, 460 is the traditional size.
So that's your length in your ring gauge. So
Correct.
4 inches by 60
Ring gauge.
for ring gauge.
and we've talked about the fact that you might not expect this, but they smoke for a good long
Yeah, they
while.
smoke the length of what you'd expect a cigar, almost twice as long as.
Well, you're smoking a 60 ring gauge, so there's a lot of tobacco in there. So when Nub came out, it was a venture by Studio Tobacco, and it was kind of an experimental. Oliva kept their core brands and then wanted to just kind of do something on the side, experimenting, and that's where Nub and Cane came from. And the whole concept with Nub, it's the sweet spot of a cigar. So a big ring gauge cigar, it's the sweet spot. So when you light it, you're going to get a burst of flavor because there's so much tobacco. The other great thing about it, you're going to get, it's not going to get hot on you like a lot of shorter small cigars.
Smokes nice and cool.
It's going to burn cool the entire cigar.
Yeah, it's really, you guys have had such a big influence on the industry, though, because so many companies have come out with their own
Imitation
Nub
is the form of
style.
flattery.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing. But for my money, the Nubs are still the best in that in that particular style. I will say though that as someone, this is about my favorite ring gauge, right around a 50 or even a little bit smaller is okay for me sometimes.
That's where
I
I
don't
am, too.
smoke a lot of Lanceros, but I like them 50 or slightly smaller is kind of my standard. But I am not afraid to grab onto a nub and smoke it. There is just something as a cigar lover that's just so great about taking in that full mixture of tobacco. And my guess is that it's actually harder to blend and get the flavors right when you're putting that much tobacco in a cigar than in a smaller ring gauge. Is that right?
You know, I don't know. There may be a little bit more room for air than in a Lancero because you have to get that proportion perfect, the blend between the wrapper and the filler. So there may be a little bit more room for air in a bigger cigar. I honestly don't know.
We're here at Stogies where Jorge, who's the primary proprietor here, he's a big fan of the Lancero.
King of the Lanceros.
He's always walking around with a Lancero, but I have caught him on occasion with a fatter cigar in his
Yep.
mouth, so it does happen. But yeah, it's interesting to me to actually experiment with ring gauges and just to see how different the smoking experience can be.
You can take the exact same blend and put it in a different size cigar and it'll taste totally different.
And-
And it'll burn differently too.
So, and that's something I've always wondered about, because when a cigar company comes out with a line, and they've got a particular cigar in that line, but it's available in different sizes, how do you blend to get a consistency of flavor from something that's maybe a 50 plus gauge Robusto and then something that's smaller?
You know, it's a science, and it takes a lot of professional tasting. So we've got people in the factory that's their job. They take this blend and they experiment with different sizes. And I'll use the example of blended whiskey. So
It's a similar thing,
when you're
yeah.
blending whiskeys, you take a part of this, a part of that, to try to come up with the same flavor every time. So we've got people that's their job, to make sure that it's the same flavor from size to size.
So their job is basically just to taste
Yep.
and then inform on.
And those are the blenders, the master
Right.
blenders.
Do you guys have any openings?
You know what? We can try.
So I was a little distracted. I was looking. I had a nub Maduro that I smoked at one of my brew club meetings, and I was standing towards the back the whole time. And then the president of my brew club came over and took a picture of it, and it's literally just barely enough to hold on to, and the entire ash is still
It's
there.
still
and I
on the
can't find
cigar.
the picture, but I need to
Oh,
find it and
that's
post
so
it because it's
great.
fantastic.
That's the actual ad. It's the
Yeah,
whole
with-
cigar
with
in
this
an
sitting on
ashtray.
top. Yeah, and there's just this picture of me with the cigar in my mouth, and it is all ash except for just enough to barely like grab onto.
And you are a brave man, because as we know, cigar ash targets your
I
clothing.
was at the clubhouse. There's a concrete floor and
Yeah.
everything, and I can lean forward a little bit. You know,
Yeah, there's been many long ash competitions
Yeah.
with nub to see who can get the longest ash.
Really a cool thing, though, when you consider the ability of the rollers to get a cigar that'll burn that well and hold the ash for that long.
And it's the different flavors, because we've got the Maduro, the Connecticut, the Cameroon, and the what I'm missing, the Maduro, and then also the nub nuance, which is the coffee flavored.
The nub. Oh yes, right. So let me ask you this: I know that the
you did a
FDA is-
harvest for a while that my wife really
Yep,
liked. That.
that was a seasonal blend.
Yeah.
The FDA is working to try to ban all flavored cigars completely. How will that affect something like a coffee flavored?
It'll go away.
It'll go away. See,
I mean,
that's-
in the wording that they're proposing, all flavored cigars, which, you know, I mean, it's just-
Because a coffee flavored cigar appeals to anybody under 18.
Well, I know what they're after. What they're
That's
trying to do
facetious.
is they're trying to eliminate these little inexpensive, buy them at the convenience store, watermelon and grape flavored cigars that that kids use to basically hide pot inside and smoke. What's interesting to me is by the time they get that done, pot will actually be legal in pretty much every state. So I don't get what the what the big rush is, but I guess it's because younger people do have a tendency to buy those cigars.
It's got flavor.
They don't, however, go buy the nub coffee, as you were saying.
Yeah.
We could sit here and watch everyone that comes in the front door of Stogies for a month, and I'm betting you not a single person walks in that's under 18.
I've never walked
Agreed.
into a cigar shop and had a miner go, "Hey man, can you just pick me up a cigar, maybe a Monte Cristo or something?" I mean,
I've had
come
that
on.
happen at 7-Eleven with beer.
Yeah.
But
Or cigarettes.
but
But- Yeah, that doesn't happen with cigars. Cigars are a very different entity.
That's the crazy part about this. I mean, trying to shut down a whole segment of the market.
right.
And it doesn't even make sense. I mean, kids aren't coming into cigar shops. And most cigar shops, if there's any question, just like a liquor store, they card.
Exactly. And I don't know. It only makes sense. Maybe the crackdown should be on convenience stores to make sure they're doing a better job of carding.
Yeah, there's that.
I
mean, the question would be where are they getting flavored cigars? And flavored cigars are never, like I've never seen an ad that would make, a 16-year-old go, "Man, I should have that in my life."
right.
I mean, I remember when I was 16 years old and I wasn't thinking about, expensive comparatively speaking, hand-rolled cigars.
Or expensive anything.
Expensive anything, right? If I
Those are
could
back
pull-
in the Keystone Light days.
If I could
Yeah.
pull $20 together, half of that wasn't going to a cigar. When I was 16, that's for sure.
Mine was Swisher Sweet Cherry Tip Cigarillos.
See, there you go.
I smell those today, and it just takes me back.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, and probably not in a great way.
You know what? Fun memories. It's all part of growing up.
It does happen. Well, it's interesting to see. I don't know if they'll be successful. I think they've got a much better shot at being successful in shutting that down than they do of getting these these regulations to apply to premium cigars that they keep trying to apply to the smaller and cheaper ones. We're going to have our legal expert Trey Boring on the show here in the next couple of weeks, so we're looking forward to his update on where it all stands, because there's been bad news, good news, good news, bad news, good news. It seems like every month something shifts.
It flips and
in
flops
the landscape of all of this. So it'll be really interesting to see. Ian, I wonder if I could talk you into pouring me just a little more of that, because I will tell you, it also goes rather nicely with this cigar. I'll set it over there. There we go. It also goes
pour
rather
Chris
nicely.
Hart style due to the angle here.
That's quite all right. I don't mind the heavy pour. It's interesting how, we'll mention that on the show from time to time.
Would you like some more?
And it's interesting how many of our guests are aware, not only of Chris, but of his hard pour beer theory.
Oh, Chris is a legend.
Yeah, he is.
In his own mind.
In his own mind. and as we all know, he is a whiskey expert, because it said so in Texas Monthly magazine. And if it's in Texas Monthly, I believe it. You know what I'm saying? That's true. That's what I said. Speaking of Chris and our good buddy Alan Denny, they put together the Houston Whiskey Social, which I believe is changing its name to just the Whiskey Social, because they have plans to perhaps take it to other markets. And they have announced a date for 2021.
Ooh.
They had to skip a year, but they announced a date. Did you
November
tell me it was November 6th?
Yep.
November 6th.
All right. And so
we're
I don't know
hoping the weather's going to be awesome. I know, like, if you're listening to this outside of Houston, November sounds like it would probably be, cold, but not in Houston.
Yeah, especially early November.
Yeah,
by the time you get to Thanksgiving, it might be
it
a
gets
little
a little
nip in the
chilly.
air.
But no, November is usually like when you go outside, you're usually okay without a jacket or with a nice sports coat or something like that, not dying.
And I know that Ian and I have a tendency when we go to the Whiskey Social, we have a sort of a
tendency
pattern.
to drink.
Yeah, well, we have a
sorry.
pattern that we follow. We go in, sample, and then make our way out to the outdoor area to smoke a cigar, hopefully bringing along enough sample remnants with us to last for the cigar, and then we head back inside again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it's always a good time in that cigar lounge.
It really is. We've said this before, but of any of the drinking events that we've been to, any of the whiskey events or any other thing, it really is put on better.
It is the one.
It's the
do
best.
it right.
It's the one.
They absolutely do it right. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be back for a short segment and a little bit of beer tasting. And then still to come on the program today, we have drinking news, of course. And our drinking news today involves a celebrity. Ryan Reynolds, the actor, is a part of our drinking news today. He's done something fun, and we'll share that with you.
I'd like to say hi to Miss Liliana. She's on the.
I love
on
me
the
some
comments.
Liliana, and she said, and of course she says hi, Bruce. The two of them have become fast friends based on the show, which
Based
is
on the comments, right?
Bringing people together.
yeah, that's right. That's what we're all about, and directly influencing sales.
That's right.
Because I'll be buying some Oliva cigars from the humidor here before I leave. So,
Absolutely.
So if nothing else, it influences sales. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting, craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And up next, Black Pumas Stay Gold Hoppy Ale from Austin, Texas. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. This is the radio program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers on the web, and it's easy to remember the web address because it's the name, mycigarshirts.com, because...
Cigars.
Yes, sir. While Ian is pouring the Stay Gold Hoppy Pale Ale from the Black Pumas and from the brewery in Austin, Fourth Tap, let me share with you an article from liquor.com, which I absolutely love liquor.com, by the way. Some of the articles that come out about spirits and stuff on the web are really just kind of clickbait. There's nothing really to them. But liquor.com is not that way. They have interesting, drink recipes, and they're always talking about new releases and different things that are out. And they've got a list of vodkas. We don't talk a lot of vodka on the show, but I wanted to share this list. This is 12 vodkas that Liquor.com says you need to try right now. And a lot of them are fruit infused. Most of them are very inexpensive. Absolute watermelon. Mm-hmm. I think I would actually like to try a watermelon.
Great summer drink.
We've used Absolute Watermelon. My wife will make Jello shots, and she uses a lot of like the Absolute Watermelon and stuff like that for Jello shots.
There's no added sugar to the Absolute Watermelon, and it is, they're saying, a potentially refreshing addition to a wide range of summer drinks. Also coming in at $20 a bottle, Cathead Bitter Orange. This
Never heard of it.
This is a new one to me, but I like the idea. Ciroc Summer Citrus at $34. That sounds delicious.
I will say, I don't do a whole lot of flavored vodkas, but it is nice if you do like a vodka soda and you don't want a sweet drink. It's nice to have that little kiss
you get
of
a
flavor.
little bit of flavor without having to have it be a sweet cocktail.
Right,
You're absolutely right. Now, this next one surprised me because I've not been a big fan of their vodkas, but it surprised me a little bit that it was included on this list. It's a new release from Crystal Head. They're the ones that do the vodka in the skull-shaped bottles, and it's actually Dan Aykroyd is one of the owners of Crystal Head. They have a new vodka just released that is in a black, glossy skull, and I have to say it looks really cool. It's the Crystal Head Onyx, and it is distilled from agave. So it's
interesting.
It's vodka, but distilled from agave, and it's a kind of a glossy, goth-looking bottle.
Just a quick aside, for most people who understand this distilling process, they understand that that's just part of the distilling process. The first thing you come up with is a neutral spirit when you distill, and then a lot of times when you keep distilling, that's why a lot of times vodka is distilled and distilled and distilled. And the more it's distilled, the better it is because it's less flavor. And that is the nature of vodka. I'm not downplaying it or anything, but that is the nature of vodka. So vodka is something that's really easy to produce for a distillery because it's the first thing that you can make happen.
Right. You don't have to age it. It's not a thing that it takes a long time to produce. And one of the reasons I think because vodka is such a neutral spirit, it's one of the reasons I think these flavored vodkas are becoming so popular.
And it's not far from gin either.
Right. The next flavored vodka on the list is Deep Eddy Lime. Now, I will say, my wife loves the Deep Eddy watermelon. She likes me to just shake it up cold in a shaker for her and pour it out. That's one of her favorite go-tos when she's not drinking rum. But Deep Eddy has launched its first new flavor in 3 years, and it is the Deep Eddy Lime, which actually sounds really good to me. Grey Goose Essences, a line of new infused vodkas from Grey Goose, strawberry and lemongrass, white peach and rosemary, and watermelon and basil are the three flavors in the line.
So everything on here has been flavored, and I can't help but think, for years, the best vodkas were, 7 times distilled, 27 times distilled, whatever, just going into ridiculous, but which gives it less and less flavor and more purity, so to speak. So I wonder if people are like kind of over that, and maybe the flavored vodka is really where it's at now.
Well, I think it's the fastest growing segment of the vodka industry, and it's one of the things Deep Eddy kind of built their whole brand on when they came out, because they do have just their base vodka, but it was they were one of the first ones to really branch into a lot of different flavors.
When they had the sweet tea vodka, and a bunch of other stuff, right?
Pinnacle Vodka has released a light and ripe line. One of them is guava lime, and the other is apricot honeysuckle. So we're beginning to see these dual and triple flavor infusions as well. Sky Vodka, they say technically not a new brand, but it has been reformulated specifically to play better in the classic vodka soda combo. They worked with experts and a water sommelier, and the cool thing about this bottle of Sky Vodka is it's $13.
Nice.
You gotta love that. You gotta love that. Timberline is a $25 bottle of vodka from Hood River Distillers in Oregon, and it's distilled from a mix of grain and 14 different varieties of non-GMO Pacific Northwest apples and cut with Oregon spring water. And they go through, as you were pointing out, Ian, 46 levels of purification.
Great.
And I was joking at 27.
Yeah. But it's a $25 bottle. So the last couple of them on this list were not flavor infused, but the others were. It's kind of interesting. So, all right, you poured us a little bit of this Black Pumas Stay Gold Hoppy ale from our friend.
While you were
at Fourth
talking, I
Tap.
was doing research.
And I appreciate
I was
that about
working.
you.
See,
I appreciate
some
that
of
about
us
you.
have to do this for a living.
Well, other ones just talk.
Well, some people just talk, but so this, it's really odd how well this actually pairs with my cigar too, because this is pretty hoppy.
It's got some bitterness to it.
And it's got some bitterness to it, but it's got a little sweetness to it, right before the bitter hits, and it's really interesting and quite delicious actually.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy this, but you're right. I'm actually a little surprised that you like this one because it is very much leaning towards
This
the hop
is
bitter side.
almost an IPA.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
I don't think they call it an IPA, right?
I think they just call it a hoppy ale, right?
hoppy pale ale, and it is that, but it's also a very good pale ale.
I
That's
would
hoppy.
love for someone to explain to me. Maybe somebody can do this in the show notes, but I've never understood. Is there a line that you cross with a particular thing that you do during the brewing, or a particular ingredient that has to be above a certain point, where it is no longer a pale ale and is now an Indian?
This is
pale
where
ale?
we really need Wiki Brian on
Yeah,
this.
well, and I don't know if he's with us.
He
today,
probably
but-
just has that information stuck bouncing around in his skull.
I
He's
would
good like
imagine
that.
he probably does. Yeah, although he's not an IPA guy.
No, he doesn't like hoppy.
So he
doesn't like hoppy.
may not have studied this particular.
I am, however, the next time I run into him, I'm gonna bring. I have one can left of the Elvis juice. I'm gonna bring that and let him try that because that was pretty special.
I picked up some more of that. Again, smoking and toasting directly influencing
That's
sales,
right.
and I got to say, it just got better upon repeated drinks.
Trent, what kind of beers do you usually drink?
You know, I have gout. So my beer intake over the last 5 years has severely dropped.
Severely dropped, yeah.
And I've got friends who own breweries, and so yeah, it's really kind of hurt
Gotcha.
When you do have a beer, do you have a favorite style?
I like a little bit lighter. I can't drink beer like I used to. So the IPAs, the heavier beers,
So you have to stay away from the sugars and.
It's actually the beer yeast.
Oh, it's beer yeast.
Yeah.
It's more the gluten, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, I enjoy this. I think it's great. But this definitely is up there on the hoppy scale.
Yeah, it's
no
pretty
doubt
hoppy.
about it. No doubt
No
about
doubt.
it. All right, we're going to take another quick break. We will be back. When we return, I believe that our man Trenton here, talk about good timing, has just received the new information.
I got it.
About the upcoming releases from Oliva.
That's
I'm
pretty exciting.
so stoked.
Breaking news
We
on
will
Smoking and Toasting.
be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Stay where you are. Breaking news from Oliva Cigars. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. We are smoking Oliva cigars and enjoying the hell out of them, and toasting with some interesting brews and other things, including, by the way, Ian, this segment we're going to break into that bottle of Old Granddad there. Ooh. Yeah, so I'm excited. This is, you've done something, and maybe I should just share this with you. It's a concept that I have. When I bring in the spirit, I always try to make sure that I have removed the initial like plastic and open it up to make
usually
sure.
the top part of the liquid, so that
Yes,
there's no
right.
spillage or any
Exactly.
issues with it.
And I noticed that you've got a completely full
You
bottle
please
there.
forgive my laziness on that. I didn't have time to open it and test it out. and
Well,
everything
we'll
else.
have time here in a moment, and we're looking forward to it. We have breaking news from Oliva Cigars, and Ian has, on the fly, come up with a breaking news song.
Breaking news. Breaking news. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. That's what I come up with.
Live right here.
For a moment, I thought you were going to do breaking news, breaking news.
I thought about that.
Now it's time for breaking news.
It's a good jingle.
It's like, like Phoebe on Friends, like all of her songs with
Oh.
the same exact
Exactly the
melody.
same with different words, right?
Smelly cat, or what was
Smelly
it?
Cat was the
Oh
best,
my
yeah.
gosh.
So, Oliva, we talked about, at the open of the show, we talked about how Oliva Cigars is not a company that, puts out something brand new every 3 months, as some cigar companies do, and that it had actually been a while since there'd been an addition to the line.
Gilberto,
Yep, Gilberto was the
Yep.
last one, and that was,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, right?
at least.
Yeah.
Right, 3.
So it is just so awesome that we have breaking news now that has come out since we started the show. And we've got Trenton right here to share what is coming from Oliva Cigars.
Yeah, I'm on a group text with our salespeople, and this just came out. It was released on Cigar Aficionado. Oliva Cigar Company celebrates 135th anniversary with Serie V Perfecto. Now, Oliva, as an American company, hasn't been in business for 135 years. What we're celebrating is the Cuban history, going all the way back to the Melanio or the Oliva family in Cuba.
Right.
So we're combining
and
that.
their origin as,
Correct.
as
Yep.
cigar
So
makers.
the heritage of the company.
Absolutely. So 135th anniversary, and we are coming out with the Serie V Perfecto. So that's pretty exciting. Only 15,000 boxes are going to be released. 12 count box, $120, $10 per cigar. So talking about inexpensive,
Well,
and this is a
that's
limited edition,
amazing.
$10 cigar.
And that's something you guys are always so good about because you don't release $23 cigars.
Correct.
The whole line is incredibly priced. Like from the Gilberto to the cane to the nub to the G, O, and V. It's just amazing.
So this is going to be previewed at the PCA trade show next month in Vegas, and we're expecting to release and ship it third quarter.
And so the Perfecto obviously will be a different shape than this one, right? Because this is
That's a figurado.
that's a figurado, tapered at the top and a little bit at the bottom. Is this Perfecto tapered more at the foot than it is at the head?
Yes, it
Perfecto
gets
is usually rounded, right?
yeah, and it gets smaller at the foot.
Right, right.
So there's going to be a 5.5 by 54 ring gauge.
Wow, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
And so this is, you're not doing a flurry of new releases. This is going to be your new release for the PCA.
Yes.
Do we have
And-
any insight on what it's going to be made out of?
Not yet.
Not yet. All secret sauce.
It's just a teaser. We can't reveal all.
One of the things we loved about being at the Aladino farm and factory was when they let us into the room where once the cigars are made and they've got them in bundles, they're waiting to be boxed.
that's a
and you
magical
just walk
place.
into that, and it is. It's like, man, if I could just stay here. for
First
a
of all, the smell is
Oh, yeah.
just
Oh,
heavenly.
just-
Absolutely amazing.
while.
Yeah.
Just great. It
And
really
then
is.
just the sheer number of cigars. It's like a kid in a candy
Mm-hmm.
shop.
It's really a wonderful thing. It's a bit like walking into the humidor here at Stogies.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It really is. That's what, and I think that works. I think when you walk into a humidor that's that well stocked, you have to leave with something.
Yeah,
Like you
you
can't
have
just
to.
walk through there and not buy. It's just, Ian, that was very well done.
That was fascinating.
You could have
Keep going.
Round and round.
If you're going to wait until you actually get here to pull that plastic off and do it, that's a good way to go
Might as well
about it.
do it with some flair, right?
That's right, exactly. That's what I was thinking. So this is the old granddad. Do you remember what you paid for that bottle?
I think it was $22.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So this is around the same price as like a Buffalo Trace, for example, and
Uh-oh.
sparing every expense when it comes to sound effects here at Smoking and Toasting. But
cannot
let's
get
hope we can get this up.
cannot get
Boy,
this up.
how disappointing would it be if we were unable to taste the whiskey?
I'll give it a try.
Oh man,
Look at that.
hands of steel over there.
Love it, love it.
Nice.
So this should be very interesting.
Now I haven't tried this. I picked it up, like I said. I've tried the 114, which is fantastic, especially at its price point. I've tried the standard Old Granddad, which is pretty good and cheap. And this is also, by the way, this is $22 ish for a 1 liter bottle. This is a bigger bottle.
That's not a 750 milliliter. It's
Nope.
a 1 liter bottle. So excellent. Well, we'll pass this around and give this bad boy a try here. There you go.
So we're gonna try that out right there. Making a nice glugging sound. Let's see if we can get
Gulp,
that
gulp,
one.
gulp.
I like the glugging sound.
Yeah. So this is Old Granddad, high rye mash bill bonded Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. I'll put the lid on here. I'm gonna be spilling it all over myself. Wearing it like cologne. Let's see. Bottle and bond in accordance with Old Granddad himself and the U.S. government. In parentheses, that's nice. OGD. Of course, it's OGD. OGD bottled and OGD bonded is distilled under requirements of the century-old Bottle and Bond Act, created to ensure the integrity of bourbon. Bonded bourbon is the product of one distillery, one distiller in a single season. See, I should have read this earlier.
Yeah.
I think I got it all out, but it was a little hesitant. Barreled for at least 4 years and bottled at exactly 100 proof. So maybe it needs to be bottled at 100 proof.
I think that may be correct.
I don't know if that's part of it or if that's just what they did.
I think most of the bottled and bond that I have tried have been, I want to say they've been at least 100 proof.
I thought it had something to do with proofing.
It smells nice.
It smells wonderful.
It's great on the nose.
Smells good. Got a little on my elbow from the spill over here, so that should smell much like this. So you're doing research while I'm talking. Tell me what you're getting from it.
Well, the first thing that I noticed is that it does not pack a big upfront whiskey punch like some things that are 100 proof do, but it is actually fairly mellow, and I mean that in a good way.
Mellow's one of those catchphrase words like smooth. It's a little tough to, like, some things can be mellow and smooth and still actually mean that they're actually mellowed and smooth. This does have a really nice, like this makes me want to sit around by the campfire or sit in front of a fire and have this. It's got a very warm overall flavor profile to it as well.
And there is a wonderful and very delayed whiskey hug. It at first I was going to say it didn't really have one, and then there it came. Just
it's got kind of a sweet, fruity cinnamon thing going on at the very front of the palate on this.
I was pulling out a little bit of caramel.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. There's definitely some fruitiness to it, like dark fruits, like cherry and blackberry sort of a vibe to it.
How are you feeling about this one? I bet it goes
I like
great with
it.
that cigar.
It's wonderful with this V Maduro.
I'm about to light up a different cigar myself.
Choices.
Where are you going next, Ian? This is a big decision.
I want to take both of them home. But I think I'm going with the Milano. I haven't had one of these in a while.
I might have an extra one for you.
I love this guy.
It's nice to have friends that are actually in the cigar business, isn't it?
You're kind of in it.
Yeah. Trenton, we met you first down when we did the show at the Man Cave, and I think, was it Alan Denny that actually got you to come on the show?
Hi,
that
Alan.
week? And by the way, Alan, the week, although I wound up crashing the show, but the week that I was supposed to be out a few weeks ago, Alan co-hosted the show with Ian, and he actually performed the Well.
Yes,
The,
and he did a
show's
good job
intro,
with
and
the
he did a
Well.
very, very fine job.
It's hard to imitate.
I wasn't there for that segment, so I had to go back and listen to it later when the show was
I don't think I would even try.
Oh, it's one of the most fun things about doing the show. And as I've said a couple of times before, and I will say again, I didn't originate it. Like anything that I do or say, or any mannerism that I may have on the show, I can always tell you, if you steal from me, you've stolen twice. I'll credit a guy named Storm Zabel, a DJ that I worked with in Boston, for being the originator of the Well. Although he did it over the orchestral soundtrack to The Man of La Mancha.
Nice.
As opposed to our intro music.
I have barely started this cigar, and it's already got this huge silky smoke to it and wonderful, like, back of the palate spiciness that I just absolutely adore.
I mentioned this earlier in between the breaks, but if you look at the almost razor straight line of that burn, and that's another thing that Oliva maybe doesn't get as much credit for as they deserve, but I can't remember smoking an Oliva cigar that had a construction issue.
And that's one of
I'm
the
not
things.
saying that it would never happen.
It happens.
Yeah,
but that's
wow.
one of the things that this company was founded on is consistency and just creating a great cigar every time.
Now, I've noticed that a couple of the mail order places, because I did a bit of mail order,
here we go.
I did a bit of the mail order stuff during during the pandemic, especially when I wasn't getting out as much. But I've noticed that a few of them have different Oliva blends that are unique to their particular, whether it's Cigars International or Holtz or any of them. How did those blends happen? I mean, obviously you guys partner with that particular retailer, but as far as like the blends, do you basically say, okay, here's something new, and if they like it, they add their name to it and take it on, or is it a collaboration? How do those things work?
Honestly, I'm on the retail side, so I sell to brick and mortar. So I honestly don't know. I get texts and emails pretty much weekly. Hey, can I get this? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Right.
It's something that we made as a company. So that's all behind closed doors between the company and the individual wholesalers.
But that's the difference between what you do, like you're selling the line, and talking about the line and stuff like that, not those individual,
Well, I'll say, even
make
though
me a blend.
even though we do, both of us occasionally order online, we are big proponents of supporting your local cigar brick and mortar retailers, because these guys, not to say that, Cigars International or whoever doesn't have their own expenses, but these guys are opening up every day, providing you a place to smoke, which is more and more of a big deal all the time.
It really is.
And they are, you go look in the humidor here at Stogies and you wonder, how much money did they sink into all this stock? I mean, these guys are really kind of out there on the front lines of this thing, making sure they're bringing in the new blends and whatever they can do to make sure they make them available.
To put that in perspective, the answer is tens of thousands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in a small humidor.
And it's sitting in there waiting to be sold, basically. It's like that money is tied up until they, and not to say that doesn't happen with the other retailers as well, but there's something special about the local cigar shop, whether it's a big one like Stogies or a smaller one or one like Allen's shop down in Galveston, the Galveston Island Cigar Lounge, that just has such a great vibe to it, and they provide this wonderful back deck that you can go sit out and watch the sunset over the water while you smoke.
That's pretty amazing.
They are helping to provide a cigar experience.
That's exactly
and to me,
right.
the experience is what cigars are really about.
Whether it's you just coming in and sitting by yourself, or you come in with a group of people, or you just sit down and start talking to the other
socializing.
customers. And I've joked about this over my plus 20-year career in the cigar industry, that a cigar shop is a lot like Cheers.
It is.
There's a norm,
Yeah.
and you don't want to sit in norm's seat. I mean, you've got the bartender who's usually the tobacconist, and I'll always joke, and there's a Cliff Clavin. And if you don't know who it is, you're him.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, and I'm wearing
I'm wearing
milk-bone
milk
underwear.
bone shorts.
I'll tell you, the other thing that I love about cigar lounges and cigar stores that offer you a place to sit and smoke is the fact that cigars are the great equalizer.
Yeah.
You'll have a millionaire businessman sitting next to a guy that drives a truck, or people. You'll have a school teacher sitting next to a stockbroker, and even more amazing than that, you got Republicans sitting next to Democrats and people of all stripes and opinions, and somehow it isn't a thing.
And they're not talking about
They're
that.
not
most of the
talking
time,
about
right?
that. Yeah, they're
Hopefully not.
well, hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully not.
But it's a place where people seem to find commonality, and that is something that I think is increasingly lost in our society. People seem really focused on our differences lately, and not on what we have that we share, that we have in common. And sharing the love of the experience of smoking a good cigar is something that I think, I don't know, I don't mean to sound too corny, but it brings people together.
No, it totally
and
does.
it's a wonderful thing. It really is.
Speaking of
I'm
bringing
for it.
things together, we need to have a conversation about the whiskey sniff at some point in time.
Well, we do. We've talked just briefly to our friends Alan Denny and Chris Hart about maybe joining forces with them for the next whiskey sniff, because there's nobody better at putting these things on than those
absolutely
guys.
fantastic.
And we had the idea of it being something a little different, of being able to do the pairing. So yeah, we'll get together with these guys, and Trenton is one of the guys that has supported the whiskey sniff in the past and made sure we had some Oliva cigars for people to smoke in that, and it has been a wonderful thing. So,
My pleasure.
The Bruce posted on
start.
here. Officer Paul used to talk about. Officer Paul's a guy who also listens to his show and would hang out at McCoy's a lot of times, and he said he would talk about being in McCoy's and Houston defense attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, and judges all sitting together and not talking business.
yeah, well, it's it's downtown, so you've got all the law firms and the courthouse and all of the all of the sort of the legal hub, I guess, of our city, all down there together. And you're right, it's a
Speaking of small
pretty
shops,
wonderful thing.
that's a very small shop with a very
great
small
shop,
humidor.
though.
It's a great little
and
place
you know,
to
it's
smoke
the
cigars.
first place we did a live broadcast in the very early days of Smoking and Toasting, back when it had the name that shall not be mentioned.
All right. The other name.
The other name, yeah. I'm glad we wound up being Smoking and Toasting.
That's a better name.
I feel like it's better, yeah. I'm really enjoying the old Granddad Bonded.
I'm pretty happy with this purchase. This has been pretty good. I got turned on. So our the guy that always listens and never watches, I always make fun of him, Josh. He actually turned me on to the old Granddad 114, and I happened to be in the store the other day, and I was thinking about that, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to try the Bonded. I've tried the 114 and the other one.
It's hard to make a choice, I think, these days in the whiskey aisle, or aisles,
Right.
as it is at the specs where I shop all the time.
Well, we had our annual lounge formal for the Connoisseurs Club of Smoking and Drinking, which is the brew club that I'm in. We're actually more of a drinking club with a brewing problem, but we had our lounge formal, and it's open bar when you walk in, and he happened to bring a bottle of the 114, and I drank that pretty much the whole night.
Yeah, that's
This
awesome.
is quite good.
What did you say the price was on that, Granddad?
This bottle, I think, cost me about $22.
Wow.
For a 1 liter bottle.
And so, which
And-
just
and
goes
bonded.
to show you that you don't have
And
to
100
spend.
proof.
It's fun sometimes to splurge on a great bottle of whiskey, but you don't always have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can get. I love getting great whiskey in the under $30 range. Like that's an amazing buy to me when it's this kind of good.
Which to me kind of brings us back to Oliva Cigars and how reasonably priced the entire line is. I mean, what did you say the retail price was going to be on that new
$10.
Perfecto?
$10 for a limited
That's
release.
unbelievable.
Perfecto.
Unbelievable. I mean, there are cigar companies, and they make some great cigars that are selling for 22 and 23. We talk about it a lot on the show when we do
Are
our.
you talking about Davidoff?
Well, no, I'm talking about the ones that make good cigars. I'm sorry. The Davidoff does make some good cigars, but they make a lot of cigars that I think are just. Well, most of their stuff is overpriced, but some of them are wildly overpriced for what you're getting. You know, for a cigar that might be as good as this, it's 3 times the
Yeah.
price.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
At least. So, but I was going to say the price to quality index that we use here on the show, which is a 1 to 10 scale when we're talking about the cigars that we've smoked, and a 5 means you got exactly what you paid for. It's very unusual for a cigar that's over about $12 at retail to score higher than a 5, even if it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you're like, okay, yeah, I spent $13 on it. It was worth the 13, but I sure don't know how I'd feel about it if it was 15. And that's something that it's much harder, I think, when you smoke a $23 Padron. I mean, it damn well better be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you smoke an Opus X, which I think they're releasing some new Opus X now, and
$30.
Yeah, it's like crazy. And it's not that they're not good; they are.
Well, Oliva has found a little place in my humidor where a lot of the big brands, a lot of brands have been around for years and years. When I go into a humidor, a lot of times I don't even bother looking at them that much. Like Padron, I know they're there. Punch, I know they're there. There's a lot of Monte Cristo, I know they're there, and I just don't generally tend to look at them because I want to see what's new. But one that I always have, in some form or another, whether it's the Serie V, which is my favorite in the line, or the Gilberto, or the Nubs, I always have something in my humidor because they're just that kind of good.
Well, and we've talked about this before, but there are cigars that, I'll buy an expensive Padron every once in a while and, smoke it. But it's not something I always have in my humidor. I've always got to leave it in my humidor unless I'm running really low.
And again, that's part of what makes working for the Oliva Cigar Company really cool is I have something, when I do an event, I have something for everybody.
Yeah.
I've got the mildest of cigars for the beginner, or, some people never graduate out of that mild category. That's
Right.
where some people just like
and,
to be.
and that's fine. That's just what they
Absolutely,
like.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, my understanding is that the milder cigars actually generally outsell
They do.
the bigger, more full
Because
flavor cigars.
just until recently, the mild beers way outsold the
Right.
fuller beers. So
There's
there's so many similarities between the whiskey market, the beer market, the wine market, and cigars. And one thing that you said, just talking about value, I do that with wine. I mean, when I go buy a bottle of wine, it's like, okay, what can I get for under $20, and it's gonna
fantastic.
way
Yeah,
outperform.
yeah.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of wine, there's a story that I came across recently about a wine that went to space, and if you want a bottle, it's $1 million.
That's it.
Somebody's gonna buy
$1
it.
million.
Somebody's gonna buy
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So, Ian, I was actually going to. I had this crazy plan that probably is a good thing I didn't do, but I was going to go buy like a box wine at Specs and bring it in, but not show you the box and tell you that I'd gotten a sample of the $1 million wine and just see. Just see how that.
Just see where my palate
Yeah,
went.
exactly. But yeah, now I've told you, so I probably won't do.
Do you
that.
guys ever do blind tastings?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, we love doing that. In
Because, you know, and I will give people a cigar without a band at times just to see. I bring up cane because cane hasn't been top of mind for a lot of people for so long, and I'll give people a cane and say, "Hey, this is a brand new cigar that we just came out with," and they'll smoke. Wow, this is really good. So it's just the perception and getting yourself excited for it, and again, just the environment that you're smoking it in.
I smoked a cane last weekend, and I thought, why is the cigar so good?
It's a great cigar.
It's so inexpensive. Why is it so
I
good?
really, really try, and a lot of people just embrace the fact that they'll smoke the label on a cigar, meaning, I see that this is this, and so therefore I'm going to like it. And I really try to take that out of the equation when I'm trying cigars, trying new ones and stuff. And even to the fact, like recently we've had some CAO cigars. They were off my list for a long time because of their quality control
Quality
and
issues,
things
yeah.
like that. But I'm always willing to try, and I really try to make this cigar is like a new cigar every time for me to try it. Try to have that childlike mentality with it, and
We should do that with each other. We should do a show where we take the bands off the cigars. I'll bring the cigars for you. You bring the cigars for me. You can buy me like more expensive cigars.
okay,
And I'll buy you some real cheapos.
Okay.
And we'll just see how that works.
all right.
I got to do something to balance. During the pandemic, we had a show where we had the
He doesn't
guys
let
on
this go.
from the Dalmore.
Yep.
And I went out and bought, because we weren't going to be in the same studio, so they weren't able to bring the whiskey. I went out and bought a bottle of their cigar malt, which is a wonderful
150-ish.
and very expensive. And I poured half of it into a container and left it down at the concierge at my building for Ian to come and pick up, so we could both taste it during the show. A week or two later, Ian provided the drinks for that show because we did a malt liquor comparative taste test. So I've still got to do something to balance the scales, because I bought you cigar malt
and you brought
bought
Schlitz.
me. I wish it had been Schlitz. It was like Old English, and
I dropped off a whole slew of them.
It
What I
took
really
me
wanted
days
to
to
do is
get
put
over
them in
that.
a basket and arrange it in like a gift basket and make sure I set it up there with a balloon or something on top of it. I should have done that.
They should have. It would have been. They would have been laughing down at the concierge desk.
And
All right.
real quick, we have something coming out. We're going to try to do it last year. It's an advent calendar leading up, and liquor companies have done this.
Yeah, with little whiskey samples or whatever.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to do this next year.
A cigar advent
A
calendar?
cigar advent.
Oh my God.
So
that's the
leading
greatest
up to
idea
Christmas, you're every
Greatest
day
idea
a different
ever.
I'm
cigar.
totally in.
ever. I love it. All right, we got to take a break. We will return with what has become, surprisingly to me, one of the most popular segments on the show. Drinking news will be in our next segment. Plus, we have another beer to taste. Our beer is the Revision Brewing Company's Finite Madness, or Finite Madness, but I think it's Finite, so we're supposed to pronounce it. But not Infinite Madness, Finite Madness, and it's an Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels from Revision Brewing, and of course, drinking news. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back, my friends. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. We are the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are enjoying some great cigars from Oliva, and it's not like I needed to be reminded of this, but every time I smoke one of these Series V cigars, I'm just reminded of what a great cigar this is. I mean, it's just, I don't know if there's a cigar you can buy at this price that outperforms this.
Especially that Maduro. It's just very rich and And as you smoked it, you've probably gotten different flavors as it heats up a little bit towards the end, a little bit more spice.
Yes. Yeah, it is spicier in the last third for sure.
I love
and I
that
love
about
that.
it.
Yeah,
love
I was
that
going to
about
say this is a completely welcome thing for me.
So if you were here during the break, then you got to see me struggling with this. But I just want to point out to you guys, look how thick the wax is on
That's
this thing. I had to
crazy.
fight through.
They want you to really be anticipating this beer
You gotta
by the
want it.
time you get it open. So I'll let you go ahead and open and pour, and then we'll do drinking news.
All right.
So that way you can, I realize you've got to set the mic down even to do these things. So it's an important part of the show that we allow you to fulfill your beer pouring destiny.
Contractual beer pouring.
as well as
Wow,
your,
that's
your
I love this already.
yeah.
Haven't
This
tried
does
yet, but I
this
love the way it
does
looks.
scream Ian, doesn't it? My friend here is the lover of big beers and dark beers, and I don't know that he's met an Imperial Stout he hasn't liked at this
Man,
point.
not many happen. It's Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels. This is the Revision Brewing Company Finite Madness.
Oh boy, this smells beautiful.
2021 barrel aged.
This is exciting.
We'll get
So,
back to that in a second here.
so and I will
Are
tell
we
you.
gonna talk? Are we gonna talk? Are we tasting first? Or are we doing?
Oh, you know what? It's here. Let's taste.
Oh wow,
It smells
that
like a chocolate brownie
that
with coffee.
so complements this Maduro
Oh
V.
boy, you are not kidding.
Holy cow!
Oh, wow.
That
It's
is like
got-
chocolate cake.
Oh my gosh.
It's got a very different, a lot of times when you have a beer and you say it's got a chocolate flavor to it, it's either a sweeter chocolate like a milk chocolate or it's that, grittier sort of cacao. This is more like a bar of dark chocolate from Ghirardelli's.
Right.
It's just got a richness to it that's
That
really
malt
hard to explain.
sweetness in there is so big, and just a hint of coffee on the back.
The coffee is definitely
And
on
vanilla.
the finish. Yes, there is some vanilla in there. So this was aged in bourbon barrels.
It's got that like when you let that chocolate just melt in your mouth, and it gets
Yes.
that real silky kind of feel. It's got that as a mouth feel. It's pretty amazing.
Reminds me a little of the Girl Scout cookie s'mores.
Oh, no.
It's got a little of that almost marshmallowy chocolateness.
Pouring myself a second, sir, before I get down to my next duty.
And your next duty is, of course, the theme song for the now world famous Drinking News.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
All right, lay it on me.
You're getting really adept at the song, by the way. Now that you've
It's only
performed it
taken,
a few times.
like
237.
40-something episodes.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Ryan Reynolds, the actor. I've seen him in a number of things. I even enjoyed Green Lantern, which would make me like
That's
one
really
of
weird.
one of two people.
How did you enjoy Green Lantern?
I don't know. I just enjoyed
were
him.
drunk.
I may have been. I did see it at one of those theaters where they serve alcohol.
Oh, you
And
saw
I
it at
was
the
drinking.
theater even?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Paid for it.
I'm sorry.
I'm a big comic book fan guy, which, by the way, I'll just throw this out before we begin the drinking news. As a comic book fan, there's not a lot of great DC comic movies and TV shows.
Right.
There's plenty of good Marvel ones, but DC has been lagging in that area. I am now through the first season, and I found it on HBO Max, of Titans, which is DC's kind of younger superhero team. It's Robin and Wonder Girl and Changeling. It's really good. This show is incredibly good. And so I just recommend it to any of you who don't think DC can make a good
And I don't watch
movie
a
or TV
whole
show.
lot of those series, mostly because I just got to wait until there's an ending to them. Because when I start watching something, I really want there to be an ending.
Well, you can watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier because it's one season and they kind of wrap the story up.
Nice. See, I like that.
Yeah,
I'll have to
it's
check
like
that out.
6-8 episodes, but they wrap it up by the end, so it's good. But Ryan Reynolds, despite the fact that he was Green Lantern, has been in a number of great movies. One of the things I really like about him is I've seen him on some talk shows and stuff, some late night talk shows, and he's really funny. He's got a great sense of humor.
Yes.
And his sense of humor has shown up in a new ad that he's done for his gin company. He is a part owner of a gin company, and just in time for Father's Day, which I won't be here for next week's show, which is the last show before Father's Day, so I wanted to pass this on. He's come up with what he describes as the perfect gin cocktail for Father's Day, and it's called the vasectomy. And he's demonstrated
Right.
in a video that you can find on YouTube. Just YouTube search Ryan Reynolds vasectomy, and you'll find this, and it's worth watching. He demonstrates how to make the cocktail, and he shared the recipe for this drink, named after, of course, the male sterilization procedure, in an ad for his gin, which is Aviation American Gin. His tone shifts from instructive to attempting to hold it together as he sarcastically reflects on the joys of fatherhood from behind the bar. It's Father's Day, but if you don't mind, we're going to celebrate with the mother of all cocktails, the vasectomy, he says. First, fill a glass with ice the way children fill our lives with so much joy. Next, pour 1 ounce of cranberry juice. Sweet, just like their little smiles. Then pour 3 ounces of tonic. So bubbly. And then he laughs before completing another take. He says, then pour 3 ounces of tonic. So bubbly, I just feel like that every day after I wake up after a long night of full sleep. He's a father of 3, by the way. Now add a dash of lemon juice. Fresh if you have a few minutes to squeeze one, or store-bought if the little one's having you running around today, those little scamps. The final part of the recipe calls for 1.5 ounces of Ryan's gin, Aviation American Gin. Finally, he says we're going to take 1.5 ounces of the gin, the world's highest rated gin for the world's highest rated job, Dad. Despite the recipe calling for just 1.5 ounces of alcohol, he continues to pour well past 1.5 ounces.
Heavy pour.
This meant he needed to do a second take, but this time he had a steel jigger to properly measure the pour. And then he says we're going to garnish it with a little slice of sunshine. He takes a drink of the cocktail and says, now that is as refreshing as fatherhood. A little something I call a vasectomy for no reason at all. And then he closes by saying, when people see this, they're going to say, has he been outside? Outside of his actor as a job and gin entrepreneur, he is a doting dad of 3 daughters with his wife, Blake Lively. So I'm sure my description of it does not do it justice. It's something you should watch.
Something you definitely have
But
to
just
watch,
the
right?
fact that his cocktail for the Father's Day holiday is called the vasectomy makes it perfect for drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Drinking news. That was time for drinking news.
By the way, his kids are gorgeous, which you would expect from Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. There's a photo of them on the article that I was looking at here, which was from the Daily Mail. But go look at the video. You'll enjoy it. It's definitely worth a couple of minutes of your time.
Cheers, y'all.
Yeah. So I had a story prepared for drinking news this week, because that's actually when I put together the notes for the show. That's always the thing that takes me the longest, is finding a drinking news a story that I think will make you laugh, because it can be like a bizarre story or whatever. But if you don't laugh, it feels like it falls flat. You know.
True. You can always send me that story for next week's,
Or I could hold on to it until I'm back.
or you could hold on to it.
I was going to ask what it was.
It's about a reporter in the Netherlands who does a special radio report as she investigates a swingers club.
You know
I
what?
can't wait to hear that.
I heard about this.
Okay, all right, don't give it away.
I heard about this.
It's a good story.
She got in a little trouble, I think.
I think so.
Bruce Stark mentions Girl Scout cookie packages should say 1 serving per container on the
Oh
box.
man, no kidding. No kidding. That's been the hardest thing, because I've been really trying to cut down on sweets, and the hardest thing is we still have Girl Scout cookies left
Oh,
over,
no.
because we've got plenty of friends with girls of that age who are selling them, and so
You can't say no.
it's so hard to stop at 1 or 2. So difficult.
I don't think
know
they
what
have a
do.
gluten-free option either, do
I
they?
don't think they do. No. Actually, I take that back. They do.
Do they really?
It's a little chocolate chip cookies, kind of like a Famous Amos shaped chocolate chip, and they're not Famous Amos, but they're not bad. For gluten-free, they're not bad.
Since I've gone gluten-free, my tastes have really changed. I can actually eat the chocolate chip cookies and fairly enjoy them now. But I mean, gluten-free pretzels, come on, they're terrible. I mean, when I'm drinking a beer, when I rarely do, just some salty, pretzels are the best.
Now, there are a number of gluten-free beers out there. And we've tried one or two of them, and they have not been bad. I mean, they're not like super full-flavored beers, but they're not bad in terms of being refreshing and crisp. So it's worth checking out. Ovation, I think, is the brewing company. Omission, thank you.
Omission,
that does all gluten-free beers.
There's a market for everything.
Yeah, boy, there is.
So this revision is amazing. Like, I just keep drinking it. Aged in Woodford Reserve barrels. That's not bad pedigree, right?
No.
This release is velvety, viscous, and rich with dark chocolate and roasty coffee notes, and of course, delicious vanilla, caramel, and oak character.
So I think we mentioned about all of those when we were.
But
I want more of this.
They don't mention chocolate at all, do they?
No, he said dark chocolate.
Oh, yeah,
that was, okay.
It says dark chocolate and roasty coffee, and it comes in at a paltry 13%.
Oh, that's all. It doesn't come off that boozy.
It doesn't really come off.
I can't
as boozy
believe you
as it
drank that
sounds.
whole bottle already.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Well, I have a problem apparently with my cup.
Is your
got a
drink
hole in it?
broken?
Yeah, it's got a hole in
I'm
it.
gonna pour right over his phone just to make him nervous.
Hey, that's fine. It's a company phone.
Actually,
that
I'm
case,
super
well.
glad that like most phones are at least water resistant up to a certain percent.
Are you willing to try that though?
Well, then
I have actually, yes.
Underwater pictures.
I haven't done underwater pictures, but I've dunked it before.
well, the newest iPhone they show in the commercial they show dropping it into water.
You know, I went to a resort in Mexico a few years back, and I had my phone in one of the I can't remember. It wasn't the OtterBox, but one of the other ones where it was completely sealed,
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking
and
about.
it just would freak everyone out when I'm standing in the pool talking with everybody, and I reach down in my pocket,
What was the
pull
name
my
of that?
phone out.
It's total, and it had a little screw thing that you had to plug in to
Exactly,
charge it.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, and they were great.
Unless you don't totally get that sealed,
It
which I
really
did
is-
one time.
It really is time for me to upgrade my phone. I think the latest iPhone is the 12, and I still have the 7. But the good news is I'm still getting 5-6 minutes of battery life on it.
There you go.
5 or 6
yeah,
megabytes.
it's-
Until the next update, then they'll lower it to 3.
Right, exactly.
And then they'll say, oh, well, we did that on purpose, but if you pay us, we'll give you a discounted rate on a new battery.
That's right.
That's my favorite thing about
And it's
Apple.
always good to know that they're right there with you. So it's
For an extra $1,000.
yeah. I don't know how they've convinced us that we need to upgrade our phones every time.
$1,000 for a phone, conservatively speaking, every 2 years.
Right.
Like, that's what we need. That's
Apparently,
crazy.
Apparently, we do.
Does that make you not want the newest phone?
I do want the newest phone, but again, I have managed to not upgrade for the past almost 6-7 times.
So what's the single most feature that you would look forward to on the newest phone?
One of the things, and I'll say this in give Apple credit for this, is that most of the features of the new phones you get with their software updates. So you don't have to wait until you buy a new phone to use a lot of things. But I think the better camera
Yep.
and the better battery life are probably the biggest things I would
My
be-
daughter looks
I
at
would
my
be
phone and
looking
says
for.
I'm not cool because I don't have the 3 lenses for the
Oh
camera.
yeah, right.
I've only
still
got
have
2.
the single one. Yeah, I've only got one.
I don't even know what mine
Oh,
is.
you're way out of date.
I'm,
Well,
I'm,
I have 2.
I'm impossibly behind.
If you don't have 3, apparently the kid, you're not cool.
Apparently. So, like, with my phone, this is a few years old, and I've been super happy with it. It does pictures, it does videos, it streams everything, and then every once in a while, I make a call on it, it does that too.
What? You can call on these
It's
things?
really weird.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. You have a pocket-sized computer that you can use to call people.
So you were talking earlier about how much you use your iPad for almost everything and don't use the
Sure.
the computer as much. I do most things that I need to do get done on my phone because it's in my pocket, and if I'm going from here to there, and I have a big iPad like this. It's nice to have this iPad, but I use it for reading music charts and stuff like that. It's not the handiest thing to carry around. It's enormous. It's great for reading magazines though. But look at the size of this thing.
Oh yeah, that's an enormous. That's I have a laptop that doesn't have a screen that big. So
Good for movies.
yeah, it
Movies
is.
Oh,
on
yeah,
a
it's
plane.
great for stuff like that. But carrying it around, it's not as good. I have a tiny iPad that's pretty far outdated that I need to probably get something new.
Every year, the Texas Whiskey Festival hosts a competition to determine who has the best Texas bourbon, rye, and malt whiskey. They use a panel of judges and conduct the competition with a method known as blind judging. The brands and specific whiskeys they are tasting are unknown to the judges, and the panel smells and tastes their way through each whiskey, rating the aroma, taste, complexity, and finish. Here are their winners for 2021 in the categories. The category of Bourbon, Grain to Glass. Number 3, Balcones Distilling Texas Pot Still Bourbon.
Balcones is awesome.
Number 2, Silver Star Whiskey 1849 Straight Bourbon.
I don't think I've tried that.
And number 1, Garrison Brothers Balmorea Texas
Man, they're so
Straight
good.
Bourbon. Yeah, pretty cool. In bourbon, in the category Bourbon Aged and Bottled in Texas, number 3 was Iron Wolf Ranch and Distillery Select Bourbon. Number 2, Milam and Green Triple Cask Straight Bourbon. And surprising me a bit at number 1, Rebecca Creek 10-year Straight Bourbon.
Really?
Yeah, now this is not the standard Rebecca Creek. This is their
Right, the
10-year.
10-year.
But we may have to try some of that on the show. In the category of rye whiskey, Grain to Glass, Ranger Creek Distilling,
They're so good.
their 44 Texas Rye comes in at number 3. Gulf Coast Distilling, Giant Rye 100.
I want to tell you that's 44 caliber Texas.
44,
rye.
yeah, I know, it's a .44, but you're right, 44 caliber Texas Rye. The Gulf Coast Distilling Giant Rye 100 is number 2.
I've never heard
And
of
at
that.
number 1, the Balcones Distilling Texas Rye 100.
Go Balcones, man.
Yeah, they're showing up a lot here. Rye whiskey aged and bottled in Texas. Number 3, I have not tried. It's the Oak and Eden Rye and Spire.
Seen it, haven't tried it.
Number 2, Yellow Rose Distilling Rye. So apparently they showed up for that. And number 1, we have friends at this distillery, the Treaty Oak Distilling Shenley Reserve Rye.
Nice.
So we're going to have him back on the show because we have not
Yes,
tried the
yes.
Shenley Reserve. What we tried was terrific. A couple of other categories. The Malt Whiskey Grain to Glass. Number 3, Balcones Distilling Lineage Single Malt.
Nice. I haven't tried that.
Number 2, Andalusia Whiskey Company Striker Smoked Single Malt.
I haven't even heard of that.
And number 1, Ranger Creek Distilling Rimfire Mesquite Smoked Single Malt.
I've had that before.
that-
If you like mesquite smoked whiskey, it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And then finally, in the category of other whiskeys, including whiskeys aged in used barrels, blended whiskey, and light whiskey, number 3, Rebecca Creek Small Batch, their second appearance here. Number 2, Remington Family Distillers Remington Revival. And in number 1, the Austin 101 Light Whiskey made grain to glass in Texas. So there are your winners for the Texas Whiskey Festival.
I haven't had any in the
blind
last
tasting
category.
of Texas whiskey. Yeah, that's the other whiskeys category, the stuff that doesn't necessarily fit
The
into any of
mesquite,
the
the
predetermined
mesquite
categories.
whiskey is an interesting thing because it doesn't go well with cigars.
I wouldn't think so.
No,
Right.
no. Any of the smoked whiskeys, things like that, they just don't because the smoky flavor always interrupts. However, it goes well with steak dinner.
Yeah,
It does go well with steak dinner.
I bet it does.
Do you guys like any of the bacon infused whiskeys?
I don't know that I've
I
had
don't think I've had it, but that as much as I love bacon, I don't.
Yeah,
know-
I mean,
don't
I love
know that
bacon,
that's a
but
thing that
putting
I-
it in, yeah. it
Bacon
just
does
doesn't-
usually make everything better. I
Not-
just
not
don't know if
that.
that would be one of the things.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you what I've tried, and I was okay with it. I wasn't crazy about it. But I was reading an article where Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters absolutely loves it, and that's that peanut butter whiskey.
Screwball, we didn't.
yeah.
We didn't review that well on the show.
Yeah, I thought I was okay with it, but I wasn't
No,
crazy
didn't.
about it.
No, I was not. Matter of fact, I went home with the bottle, and then I gave it to some friends that do a lot of like game nights and stuff, and
Yeah.
they couldn't even get rid of it.
They gave it back.
They gave it
They
back.
regifted.
So unless you know that Dave Grohl likes it, apparently it's
Well, we
questionable.
could always send him the bottle of what's left. I'm sure he would enjoy it. But all right, we're going to take a break and come back to wrap up the show. Trenton Smith with Oliva is here with us. It sure is fun having you back on the show.
It's great to be here.
And we have certainly been enjoying the cigars. I've managed to just burn through this one, Ian.
You have been
you're,
pacing yourself.
I'm on my second one.
I know.
And I spoke the biggest one first.
I know you did. So
Madness.
You've yes, madness. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting, and it's show number 237.
Halfway to 300.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. I love when we were able to do shows live, and big thanks to Jorge and his staff here at Stogies for allowing us to do the show here from their lounge, which is a wonderful and very relaxed place to enjoy a cigar and
Yeah, this place is awesome.
and take it all in.
Thanks to Jorge, man. If you guys get a chance to come by and see Jorge or Jenny,
Yeah, Jenny's awesome.
yeah, they're fantastic.
Wanted to also thank our guest from last week, Robert Licorice from Iron Root Republic Distillery,
So
who brought
awesome.
along some great samples of upcoming things. And that's always fun when we get to try something that's not even out there yet. It makes me feel very Chris Hart-like.
Yes.
To try something that no one can get
that
their
no one
hands
can
on.
get their hands on. Well, man, they have a few expressions coming out that I am super excited about. If you listen to that show, you'll be able to tell that can't wait until those are available.
And I guess if you've got a new cigar coming out, we may have to have you back on soon to try it.
I don't know if I'll be able to get my hands on it.
Yeah, you did say it was going to be somewhat of a limited supply,
Very
right?
limited.
Yeah, so I always think that's interesting when companies do that. They release, a very small batch of cigars. But in your case, you still kept it reasonably priced. That almost seems to just go against
Well, and
conventional wisdom.
and
you
it's
know?
small batch just because it's the 135th anniversary
It's
celebration.
gonna fly off the shelves too.
Yeah, it's not going to be it's not going to be out there all over the place.
I will
It'll be
say,
$16 on the secondary market.
yeah, I will say if you spot it at your local tobacconist, definitely grab a few.
Snap it up.
Yeah,
Yes.
because it
And-
won't
and
be
send
around
me
for
one
long.
or two.
It won't be around
You can
for
reach
long.
us at P.O. Box. I'm sorry, what?
It's really been fun though being here today. We've tried 3 very good beers, a very good whiskey, and I've just enjoyed the hell out of this Serie V. It is correct to say Serie V.
Yes, it's not
That is-
5.
That is the correct way to say it.
And
I
it
always
is-
wonder.
and it is
Or
Oliva.
It's not Cinco either, right?
No.
Okay.
And it's
So I was-
Oliva,
not
Olivia.
Olivia. Yeah, a lot of people.
I was clued into the fact that it's Serie V by the fact that they have Serie O and Serie G, and those don't correlate
To
very
like a Roman-
easily to numbers.
if they are a Roman numeral, I don't know what those numerals are.
We're not yet there with the Olympics.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's probably good. I don't know if the Olympics is going to be there.
I don't know.
Who
Is there a
knows?
reason it's called Serie V?
Do
we know?
I'm sure there is, but I'm not sure what it is.
Gotcha.
I don't know what the.
It
I don't-
does sound very elegant.
It does, and it looks great. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's a wonderful smoking cigar. I've been with this one for the whole show, still burning wonderfully, and down
Look at
into
the razor
this,
tight burn on that.
down into this last nub. It is just so wonderfully spicy and complex.
I like how you can
And,
nub in there.
Yeah. Well, some cigars are not great in the last third.
Correct. They get too hot.
But
and spicy.
I love the ones that are still smoking great.
Yeah.
That can be my favorite part because the flavors can be so full
They get more
in the
intense,
final third. And if they don't get too hot and harsh, it's a really, really wonderful thing.
Awesome.
All right, Ian, next week, I am not on the show, and I will actually be gone. I won't be pod crashing. So you're going to be hosting the show with a guest host. Is that right?
I am.
Do you want to announce?
Mystery guest. Actually, so it's a friend of mine named Joel Swift. He is one of the owners over at Eureka Heights.
Oh, man, am I going to miss Eureka Heights beer next week?
Well, I don't know that we're going to do a whole bunch of Eureka Heights beer because we were talking and he wanted to highlight Balvenie since they'll be on.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about that, but I may see if I can persuade him to bring some fun stuff in. This gentleman also has a collection of amazing beers that he just loves and enjoys. He's one of those people that he has tons and tons of amazing beers, and he's such a beer nerd, and he's absolutely wonderful to sit down and have beers with.
Well, you're
Partially because he provides them, because his beers are always better than yours.
Yeah.
And then partially because
Not the
he
malt
is-
whiskey.
yeah.
he is an absolute enthusiast. He
Yeah.
loves beer, so it's going to be a lot of fun to have him on the show. And he's pretty excited about speaking with Balvenie too.
Yeah. Well, Neil Strachan from Balvenie will be joining you guys, and so it should be a fun show. Mm-hmm. I will be watching from afar.
From afar, you
Yeah.
gonna comment?
Oh yes, you better believe that. So, want to thank you again, Trenton, for coming on the show. It has been too long since we had you on, so we'll try to not wait so long next time.
It almost feels like normal.
Yeah.
I mean, this almost feels like a normal situation that we're in right now.
The world is slowly returning to normal.
Slowly
at
returning
least,
to normal.
At least for the vaccinated.
But
By the
now
way-
we're in that awkward space where do I bring a mask? Do I not bring a mask?
Well, I know.
So
now
you
I just
generally
try to
keep
keep
one in
one
my
in the
back pocket,
car,
yeah.
yeah, just in case. By the way, the one of the latest shirts at mycigarshirts.com, our sponsor, it says vaccinated, caffeinated, and ready to smoke.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's just one of the shirts you'll find there. Do check them out because they are a wonderful sponsor of the show. And thanks to Adam, our producer, who has had a rather weird week and still managed to be here for the show today. So thank you, Adam. We appreciate that. Your fill-in, Tom, is nice and all, but we feel better about it when you're here. So thank you to everyone for tuning in for 237 shows, is it now?
Yeah, halfway to
wow.
300.
Halfway to 300.
All you got to do is divide 300 in half and get 237. You know exactly where we're at.
So I guess we have to decide. We didn't do the big celebration for show 200 because we were in lockdown. Are we going to do something at 300?
We can, we got a 250 coming up.
Well, yeah, that feels too early to celebrate. Then. I think we wait till we hit 300 and then
You just make it.
just make it an all-out.
Is it really ever too early to celebrate?
Well, perhaps not. I just know that when we did the 100th show, we invited everybody who'd been on the show at any point in time. Of course, not everybody could make it, but we had about 20 people there. There were bottles everywhere. There were cigars everywhere.
Absolutely
and
ridiculous
the show was about
wonderful.
4 hours long. It was crazy, but it was great fun. And so we'll come.
Maybe
up
we
with,
could do a mini celebration at the Whiskey Sniff and do a show right before the Whiskey Sniff.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
We could couple that together.
I
And
like that idea. All right, we'll get working on that. In the meantime, thank you to everybody for being here, and we appreciate you watching and listening to the show. And until we meet again, my friends, cheers.
Thank you, and cheers.
Happy smoke.
Cheers.